People get into this space and they don't actually understand what to sell or how to sell it. You've got to have your AOVs correct, which is your average order values. You've got to have your life order value correct. Like all of these little nuances have to be in place before someone actually starts scaling.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the E-commerce Coffee Break podcast. Today, building and scaling an e-commerce brand is harder than ever. Customer acquisition costs are rising, paid channels are crowded, and many brands are sitting on customer data they still don't know how to use. At the same time, a new generation of e-commerce brands is finding smarter ways to grow. Not by spending more money, but by making smarter decisions, understanding their customers better, and using AI and first-party data to improve performance. So today, we're talking about how smart e-commerce brands are winning in today's market. To break this down, I'm joined by Thiago Costa and Raphael Tomé. Thiago is the CEO of Full Venue and Clustie.ai, a platform helping e-commerce brands predict higher value buyers and improve meta ads performance through AI-driven audience intelligence. Raphael is the founder of Tomé Distribution and the brands Neutrino and QuickGrow. He brings the operator perspective and shares what it takes to build and scale a modern e-commerce business in 2026. Thiago, Raphael, great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So let's jump into it. Thiago, what has changed the most in e-commerce over the last 2 years?
Everything, I would say. So the main change and the major change is obviously the AI capabilities that exist today. That is making this process of creating a new brand, launching an e-commerce much simpler than it was in the past. I remember the phase when you needed to hire a consultancy company or a consultant to build your website or to build your e-commerce. Today, with a couple of prompts, you can build a Shopify store. And this is a huge change that leads to another. There is the amount of new shops selling single products. So today, you have an idea, you have a vision, you create a business, and you can build an e-commerce platform to sell all over the world with a unique product. And this is growing a lot. Mainly on the US, we are watching this behavior. So a lot of differences, but the main one I would say it's the facility that you have to create all of this in a much simpler way.
Yeah, a lot has changed in a very short time. We want to touch on a couple of things there. So to start with, Raphael, you're a successful e-commerce entrepreneur. Where would you start your brand today, if you would start today, and what would you focus on first?
Sure. So I think that the most important thing for me is exactly what Thiago does, is audiences. If I were to give anyone advice around how to start their own e-commerce, I think that the first thing would be is to understand the metrics behind your platform. I think people get into this space and they don't actually understand what to sell or how to sell it. And so, you've got a really good idea and the idea is brilliant, but you're not getting it out there because number one, no one actually knows who you are, what you're selling. And number two, the metrics are completely flawed. So, you've got to have your AOVs correct, which is your average order values. You've got to have your life order value correct. Like all of these little nuances have to be in place before someone actually starts scaling. And that's the big thing for me. Like for me, when I met Thiago and his team, and they make it very easy, by the way. They meet up with me every week, which is a fantastic thing. That support structure is something that you don't generally get out of any app that's on Shopify. So even though you plug in AI apps into your Shopify, doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. There's always issues with the app and that type of thing. But for me, I think that the big thing is that when you first, start a business, I think look at the metrics, look at what you're selling, and then sort of go out there and try and sell it. But that's like, it's easy to say. But when you get onto like sort of Facebook and Google and these type of platforms, it's difficult to actually scale that up. So number one, the audience. Number two, the scaling is the most important thing for me. So before I met Thiago and his team at Clustie, I went through many different agencies to try and sort of scale up what we were doing and try and get a better ROAS, which is your return on ad spend. And I must tell you, I think I must have gone through about 5 or 6 different agencies. And my ROAS, because I've got 2 different brands, like you mentioned, I've got QuickGrow, Neutrino. it's hair care products. They sought after because they're solving problems. And that's the one thing that people don't realize, is that if you've got a problem-solving product, it's a lot easier to sell and to scale through the likes of Facebook and those type of things. That's still where your audience lies, is Facebook. Facebook is still the golden key for those type of things. But what I found is that, doing all of these things with these agencies, like my scalability was muted. Not only was it muted, but it was also like there was almost like a restriction on how much I could actually get in terms of a ROAS. And that was around about sort of 2.8 ROAS on my stores. When I met these guys, I mean, I took that 2.8 ROAS and we took it to the first month. It was over 5 already, and so like I was already scaling to that level, and then I decided to bring my other brand, which is even a more successful brand, which is Neutrino, which is for hair loss. I decided to do that with these guys as well, and went over 10. So I've never seen those type of numbers before, and that to me was the biggest thing. As an entrepreneur, you want to be able to spend less, and you want to be able to, make more. That's the bottom line. There is nothing else. It's nice to help people and it's nice to do those type of things. But in terms of the business metrics, man, if you just don't have those things in place, you're never going to go anywhere, and you're just going to die.
Yeah, I think it's a good example that you can grow if you know how and you have the right data on hand. Now, Thiago, question to you is, what usually breaks first when a brand starts to scale on Meta ads in general? What do you see? Why is it not working as they intend to do?
So I think that, and Rafael told about the agencies. So there are different pieces of work that needs to be done when you are scaling a brand. And I think that the companies needs to be focused on what they know exactly on how to do. Okay, so and this is why Clustie is so niched, and the world is seductive, because I speak with investors, I speak with a lot of brands. We are consistently hearing our customers because it's the most important feedback that we have. And we have a lot of ideas to generate creatives, ideas to automate the budget, ideas to deep down on the creation, an automatic campaign creation. We have a vision internally that is shared by my person to the whole team. We need to be the best company working on the audience side, because you have a lot of pillars on the ad side. You have the message, you have the creative, you have the offer, you have the budget, and you have the audience. If you want to do everything, and I think that's a little bit of what the agencies want to do, they want to do everything. In the end, you are not specialist in anything. You can do the things, but you are not looking into a problem with the right eyes. So we are looking into it, and what we are seeing, and answering your question, is that there is a lot of confusion when we enter the brand. So we are finding brands that have more than 50 active campaigns, spending budget worldwide, most of the campaigns with the same creatives, changing budget every day depending on the trends from different metrics like CPMs, CTR, so cost per visualization, cost per click-through rate. The agencies are consistently looking into this and making changes every day. So a lot of things being done without thinking about what you need to do. And what we are seeing, of course, that we see brands that are working really well already with the agencies, and we make a perfect fit, because what we want is to work with the agency and the brand together, because we are not doing the agency work. We are just generating audiences for the brand or the agencies to utilize on their paid campaigns in Meta. But in the end, what we see is that if you are struggling with scaling, probably you need to rethink all the setup that you have on your advertising platforms and keep it simple. Start simple. You don't have to use 50 campaigns for 50 countries to grow. Probably if you have one or two properly targeted for the countries where you can sell better, where your ICP resides, you will have the numbers. So yeah.
Okay. Rafael, question for you. Thiago was just mentioning some KPIs there. For an entrepreneur, that might look different. What's the customer data that matters most for you?
I understand Clustie as well, is that they choose metrics from your actual shop, and then they teach Facebook what that audience should look like, right? So I think that's the most important thing for me. I think that if you've already got people shopping on your website, those are people that are actually interested in your product. So you're not asking Meta to go out and sort of learn the audience, learn how to pick and choose that person that should be purchasing from you. You've actually got a little tool, a little AI bot that basically tells Meta who that person should be. I think that's the most important thing for me. It made sense to me. It's a very clever concept.
No, I would agree. Meta knows its own platform the best, and obviously they are sort of transparent by now on what's happening there. Now, Thiago, question for you: the customer acquisition costs keep rising. Are paid channels becoming for smaller brands too crowded?
Of course they are, because if you think about the paid channels landscape, it's the same for the last 10 years. Probably you have a new player, TikTok ads, and you can use it. But you have Meta, you have Google, you have TikTok, and a couple of other channels. And if you think on the number of e-commerce platforms that are active today investing money in paid media, you have a huge growth. I don't know the exact numbers, but probably more than 1,000%. So it's crazy. So of course this is getting crowded. In the last 5 years, on average, the customer acquisition cost is growing for about 20 to 30% in Meta. Okay, so this is a number that impacts all the businesses. You have other things, political questions also that are rising every day, taxes that the brands need to pay that they were not paying before. And to have this kind of solution that we created that is lowering down the customer acquisition cost. So I think it's exactly where we want to be. And that metric is the North Star metric for us, because ROAS is important, but ROAS is related with how much it costs for you as a brand to acquire a new client that will buy in your store. And if we are able to reduce this number, we are doing what we need for the brands. And this is something that we like to put on our partners' ad. That is, you can use Shopify, you can use your agency, you can use, I don't know, I will say MailChimp, Klaviyo, Salesforce, whatever it is. You can use all these platforms. We are not asking you to quit those platforms. You can add a solution that is only focused on audience intelligence to reduce the money that you will spend to acquire a new customer. And this is so important today. And this is exactly what is making this free-to-paid ratio that we have, because in Clustie we have a 30 days trial to all the brands that want to test our solution. And last month we had a 90% free-to-paid ratio. That is insane. At the same time, we know that if we are not able to generate good results, we will lose the client. So we need to be focused in delivering the best audiences to our clients to have the best results.
Mm-hmm. No, it's so important. Audience, I think, is the most important thing. Interesting enough, I just had a chat yesterday. We were laughing about that. Still, a lot of brands, they have a vague idea who their audience is, but actually they don't. So AI can definitely help there. I want to dive a little bit more into Clustie. Thiago, from your perspective, give us a quick rundown what Clustie does in detail so that our listeners get an idea. And then I want to ask Rafael from what his experience is with Clustie.
Okay, perfect. And I will start exactly from what you were saying regarding most brands, they don't know exactly who their customers are. And all the companies need to know exactly who their customers are. If you are selling something, you need to know to who you are selling. So, and this is something that we defined really well. We are selling to Shopify retailers that are spending money in Meta. So everyone in our company knows the customer persona that we need to reach. Of course, that you have different channels. We can speak with Rafael that owns the brand, or we can go directly to a Shopify agency or a marketing agency that owns more than one brand that can help us. But what we are doing with Clustie is simply connecting to Shopify, bringing all the information from products, orders, and customers, connecting to the Meta account of the brand, and generating audiences, different types of audiences. Right now, we are generating audiences based on the best DNA from the store, the high propensity buying audience. And we are generating an LTV audience from the people that we believe that will buy on the next 30 days based on our AI models. This is the focus that we have. So generate audiences with a single click, automate and integrate the audiences in Meta. At the same time, we have the capability of creating an automatic campaign that will read all the campaigns that the customer has on Facebook and on Meta, and will duplicate and use our structure with our campaign, our audience, and the creatives that are performing better on the brand side in Meta. So this is mainly what we do. We are doing this research of going for new audiences, and what is coming next is audiences that are relating product and people. So we call it product audience match. So if Raphael wants to sell a specific product, we will be able to deliver the right audience for the product. At the same time, new geographies. We are studying a lot, because imagine, and let's focus on these brands that Raphael owns, Neutrino and Quick Grow. You are selling in South Africa and you want to scale to another country. If you don't have the clients in other countries, our AI will not be able to generate a new audience. We can tell you, and this is gamification for the product, we can tell you how much it takes to generate the first audience. So like giving a progress. So you are 78% of having an audience to the United States, or we can work on the audience that we have on South Africa and eventually create a new audience for other country. And this is also feedback that the customers are giving to our team. Rafael also spoke about it. So we are making this approach to new audiences. And the last one, so product audience match, new geographies, and the last one focus on the season. So Black Friday, Christmas, so to have season-focused audiences. But Clustie is an audience agent that integrates with Meta and Shopify.
Okay, now Rafael, from the operator's side, when you started working with Clustie, and we heard that you had huge success with it, were there any surprises for you in regards of audiences that were new to you or expanding audiences? Tell me your experience.
Not necessarily. I think that they explained themselves very well. I think that they said to me, like, it's going to take like 3 to 4 weeks for the Clustie to teach Meta what the audience should look like. I'm actually intrigued to learn about more about what you guys are working on at the moment, because we've only got the LTV and HBV. And then we've got one thing that that entrepreneur hates doing is leaving money on the table as well. And that's one thing that people do. Abandoned carts and those type of things. And the remarketing is something that you guys have, we didn't have a remarketing campaign. Not the way that you guys have chosen it or worked it. And that's bringing money in as well. It has its own ROAS. It has its own cost per acquisition as well. So it's a facility that's completely separate, but it works for us as well. And that's something that is extra money that's just lying there. But yeah, look, my experience with these guys and this team has been good. I mean, I honestly says I can't complain about really anything. If there's a little bit of a drop in the metrics, I basically message the guys, because I've got them on WhatsApp. I message them and they sort of respond to me, and then they basically, see me either that day or the next day. So their service has been incredible. I think that one of the big things with regards to the cost per acquisition that you mentioned as well just now is that, bringing that down is one thing, but if you can't bring that down, you've got to have certain other metrics like your AOV up, because like what Tiago said, like there's so many people in the space now. Everyone's paying, everyone's paying for ads. The ads aren't getting cheaper. What's happening is you've got to make more money. Your profits are going to be higher in order for you to basically get a bigger piece of the puzzle. That's all it is. So at the end of the day, what they've done and what Clustie has actually assisted my company is exactly that. The cost per acquisition has come down, my profits have gone up, so now I can throw more money at it. Where in the past, man, I was throwing more money and I was just my metrics were nowhere. They were non-existent. So look, my experience with these guys have been really good. I would definitely recommend them to anyone that wants to kind of scale their business. I know that perhaps my business is different because I am solving problems from a cosmetic and a hair perspective. But I'm sure Tiago's got other sort of examples of what they've done, and that's the reason why he's got a 90% success rate in terms of to free. It makes sense, and I think that everyone's going this route, but everyone's going the route of AI, but they also failing because AI is not the end all and be all. Even when you chat to ChatGPT and stuff, it gets things wrong all the time. So especially if the topic that you're obviously discussing with ChatGPT, if it gets something wrong, it says, oh, you pointed that out, yes, you correct, and then it corrects itself. And people are finding that with AI is still in its infancy. So having people like Tiago and his team actually coach you through this whole process is exactly what you need. That's what makes their company special. So even though they've got a nice little tool, I think what makes them special is the team.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of our listeners can relate to what you just said, Raphael. Working with a number of different agencies, no one was delivering it. Looking at the numbers, ripping your hair out. I think there's a bit of on figuring it out and not making success there. Tiago, I want to do a question a little bit on the technical side. You mentioned already a little bit on the tech stack. How does Clustie fit into an existing e-commerce tech stack? Because everyone has sort of a different setup there. How does it fit in?
Yeah. So I imagine a pure tech stack with your e-commerce solution. You have a tool to send emails and SMS. Let's say that you have Shopify for e-commerce, you have Klaviyo to send this kind of communications. Then you are investing in paid media, probably in Google and Meta. So you are spending some money to bring new people to your website. You are trying some other ways with partners, with other kind of advertising, also outdoor, offline advertising. And at the same time, you can introduce a simple tool that is only focused on audience intelligence that will deliver new audiences to your Meta account when most of the brands are spending most of their budget. And you don't have to worry with it because we are doing weekly updates. The audience is consistently being updated. At the same time, we are launching insights. We have a team focused on speaking with a client, because all this AI craziness that we are living, we need to have human skills on the companies. Of course, that today we are managing 40 clients, probably tomorrow we will be managing 300, and the day after tomorrow 3,000. Of course that we need to optimize this part, but at the same time, this kind of connection between the brand or the agency and our team is super important for us to build the best product for our customers. So in terms of tech stack, imagine Clustie as the upside tool that will allow you to have intelligence on your Meta campaigns, not only using Meta intelligence, but using your own data intelligence, the intelligence that resides on your Shopify store.
Okay. Raphael, final question to you before we come to an end today. What should e-commerce founders focus in the next couple of months to stay competitive? You're in the business day to day. Is there anything in your planning that you really want to focus on?
Sure, that's an interesting question. I think the scalability of businesses is where everything lies. For me, in particular, I think that over the last many years, I think I've been in business now for 21 years doing this, and I think that's been my biggest sort of problem, has been the scalability. So I think, I feel like AI is definitely opening up because there's an AI tool now for all sorts of stuff. And I don't know how good they are because I haven't really tried them. All I can say is that my experience with these guys is what has gotten me from quadrupling 5 times in my income, and it's still selling the same product. So I don't know. Like, I think it's a very good question. From my perspective, it's really just going to be, how do I sort of evolve in this whole new market of AI. Because I think that as these guys evolve, they've got to stay. I think they've got to stay on par with regards to what's actually happening out there. For me, we're innovating all the time, but if people don't know about it, it's going to go nowhere. And I'm just going to say this here, and it's very exciting. I got my patent filed yesterday. I've got something that's going to revolutionize hair loss across the world, but no one will know about it if I don't actually have a team like this supporting me. So from my perspective, it's probably just the scalability and the partnerships that you get involved with.
Okay, no, it makes perfect sense. Thiago, before our coffee break comes to an end, anything you want to share with our listeners that we haven't covered yet?
No, essentially is that this conversation is probably the most interesting one that I had in this type of content, doing this kind of episodes, because I have a partner with me that is using our solution, and there is no more important thing for me and for all my team that's to have advocates that are using the solution. So this is the main message that I have. And the other is, again, 30 days trial, use it. You don't need to do everything really well. You need to do specific things super well and do them well with the right tools. Focus on what you have and the best things that you have. In terms of e-commerce, focus on the products that you are selling, focusing on scaling to the countries that you know that you are able to sell. And with, depending on your size, on the store size, but between $70 and $499, you can use a solution like this that will help you to grow your ROAS and reduce your customer acquisition cost. Thank you.
Cool. Final question. Where can people go and find out more about Clustie?
They can go to Clustie.ai, our website. Also find us on LinkedIn, find us on Instagram, and share a message with us. But the end of line is go to Shopify App Store, connect your Shopify store, connect your Meta account, start using our audiences, and see the numbers. And then send us the message.
Super. Yeah, I will link all the sources to the show notes, so people are just one click away. And for our listeners, try it out. I think Rafael gave a good example on how successful you can be with Clustie and using AI in the right way in your business. And Thiago, I hope a lot of people will try it out. Thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, Rafael and Klaus. Thank you.
Thank you, Klaus. Thank you, Thiago.